Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode on the After Maghrib podcast. We hope you've been enjoying and benefiting from our weekly discussions and inshallah taking some value from the conversations we're having here on After Maghrib. We need to ask ourselves, sometimes we find ourselves in a moment of rage. Sometimes, we lose the plots. We go on a mad one, as some may call it. But more importantly, how can we humble ourselves and put ego aside? Now, before we begin and kickstart today's conversation, as always, I'm going to say salam to my amazing co-host, Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How are you saying?
Alhamdulillah, as always. How are you?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah. We are like at a crossroads in our Islamic calendar. Obviously, last week we had the blessed day of Eid al-Ghadir. Obviously, next week we are preparing for the arrival of the month of Muharram. So I think this is like a really important week for us. I think in the Islamic calendar to reflect on what we've done over the whole Islamic year and obviously to prepare for the month to come and obviously the year to come as well. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're not following us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you listen to your podcast as well, Spotify, Google, Apple, make sure you're doing that and leaving us a 5-star review as well. Share it with your friends, your family if you're enjoying, and even if there's something you benefit from as well. We want to hear from you and we want to hear what you guys want to see more of, and also in the coming month of Muharram as well. Obviously, this is a big topic, Sayed. So we need someone who, inshallah, will fill the shoes to give justice to the topic. A familiar voice to some of the viewers, and obviously a really good friend, part of the team, the After Maghrib team, Brother Yasser Al-Hilfi. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you guys?
Bro? How are you doing?
Wallah, I'm chilling. How's life?
I came to the podcast angry. Well, now I've seen you.
Why are you angry?
No, I'm only kidding.
Good to have you.
Very nice.
Obviously, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Feels good. I'm a bit nervous, but whilst the time goes, I'll be alright.
Yeah, of course.
I'm delighted you're on this side of the.
Yeah, I'm normally on
behind.
Yeah.
So, alhamdulillah, we have the pleasure of having you here.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
This is obviously like I said, massive topic. There's a lot to reflect on. Obviously, going into Muharram, some might ask, why are we talking about anger and ego before entering Muharram? Like, why is this? Why are we not talking about lying or cheating or this or that or anything else? But why specifically this topic, Sayed?
Sorry, I didn't know you were going to ask me that question.
I wanted you to pass it on to Yasser.
Okay. My apologies. Yeah, on the level, it's a great point you ask. Why are we discussing this? And I think, by the way, genuinely, I've had this topic at the back of my mind for a very long time. And surprisingly, over the last few weeks, we've had 2 or 3 nudges from our listeners who want us to touch on anger. How can we control it? Where does it stem from? How can we, for example, humble ourselves not to become angry and, get rid of this ego that we have? Because anger and ego, realistically, Yasser, and you can agree with me here, feel free to disagree, it destroys families, destroys communities. Ultimately, it destroys your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's, there's a question I want to ask, because we've had a nice discussion once off camera.
Yeah.
And I really loved speaking with you. I love speaking to you all the time. But what I understood, when it comes to like anger and trying to control your patience and, humbling yourself, it stems from ego.
Yeah, 100%.
How?
Well, first of all, Mujtaba needs to change the camera. Okay. First of all, it's because...
This is what happens when you work behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when you said it goes hand in hand, 100% I agree. Is because anger doesn't just come from within for no reason, basically. I realize that for me, when I get angry, it's mostly because of my ego. That my man spoke to me like this guy spoke to me like that. I didn't like it, now I'm angry. So if we want to talk about how to get rid of anger, how to get rid of ego, then we need to talk about ego. We need to talk about where it stems from, where it comes from. And from my experience, I realize that anger comes from ego. That because I think that I'm better than everyone, and I think that I'm a big man, and that everyone in front of me is nothing compared to me. If someone steps up and talks to me in the wrong way, or does something I don't like, then I get angry, and it's like I get a fire within that this guy is nowhere on my level, but he wants to talk to me in a way that I don't like. It's a disrespectful way. So that makes me angry. So just to drift off the topic of where anger comes from, I wanted to touch up that if someone wants to get rid of anger and thinks, how can I get rid of anger? It's not going to work of you just thinking, okay, let me just calm down, let me breathe. I don't think that works. It's a small point of how to get rid of anger, but I don't think that's how you get rid of anger completely. I feel like you need to look within and see, first of all, how do you see yourself? Every day when I look at myself and I see Yasser Al-Hilfi, I don't think that I'm this guy that's great with cameras, or I'm a good editor, or I'm a good orator. No, I want to see myself as a servant of Imam Hussain. That's it. That's all that's my life goal. I want to be a servant. But can a servant of Imam Hussain be a person that's full of anger, full of ego? No, I don't think he can. So if you want to talk about how you get rid of anger and how you get rid of ego, you need to find a goal. What's your goal in life? My goal in life is to become a servant of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam.
That's beautiful. And it's nice the point that you just raised, because it like sort of connects the sorrowful nights of Muharram that's going to come up. And you're very right. We do have to look at ourselves. I was listening to a lecture a few weeks back by Sayyid Mustafa Al-Qazwini, who's based in LA, California. And he was actually talking about anger. And, he said one time I had, a sister come up to him and she said, my husband's always angry. My husband's always like, angry with everything that I do. He's never happy, never satisfied. And he can be angry out of nowhere for no reason whatsoever. So he was like, and she asked him, is there a dua you can do for my husband to, calm him down? He was like, sister, before I can do any dua, before we can ask Allah to intervene, the individual themselves is to take it upon themselves to acknowledge they are angry and want to work towards, fixing their anger. And one thing that he did say that I thought was interesting, coming from an Islamic point of view, he was like, you may need to go seek anger management classes, because, the dua can only help you to a certain extent if you actually really mean that dua and want to improve yourself. But at times you also need to, go take these anger management classes. I don't know. What do you think, Ahmed?
Yeah, there's a lot to dissect here. I think that, like you guys have kind of pointed to, the first place maybe to start is to acknowledge you have anger, and also not to overestimate oneself. Like, it's very easy for me to think, I'm a calm guy. I'm generally cool-headed. A lot of the time, anger, Imam Ali alayhi salam says that anger develops madness, and anger has a form of madness. And oneself should feel sorry for him when he's angry. And if he doesn't feel sorry, then the madness lives within him. This is what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. So to understand that even in your most heated moment, how do you react? For example, are you someone who lets his mouth run loose and you say something you regret? There are people who speak before thinking, which is a bad habit. And there's those who think before speaking. And one of the biggest traits we have to understand as followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen and followers of Abdullah Hussain alayhim as-salam is that understanding how you use your words before you use them is very important. Your tongue can be the most impactful weapon. We say dua is the weapon of believer. It's because what you think and what you say can change the course of history.
They say the tongue can be as sharp as a sword.
There you go. I said. And if we don't acknowledge that our anger can be dangerous, but at the same time, anger used for the right reasons, or ego used for the right reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into, can obviously be beneficial and impactful, then we will have a problem. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that anger is the root of all evil, all sins. You think about it, like anger, sins, not really, I don't understand the connection. Maybe you're angry at yourself. We talked about insecurities recently. Why do I, for example, not me, why does someone cheat in an exam? Why does someone do zina? These are all insecurities. They might be angry at themselves. They might be angry at their spouse. They might be angry at their financial situation. But as long as one understands that it exists in you and to what degree you manage it, then obviously we can take it from there.
I just to raise another point is that one thing that I feel like why I like to talk about anger and ego in such a way is because I lived in a life where anger was a big part of me. That angry people were around me and egotistical people were around me 24/7, whether it be friends at school or friends outside of school or where I go to work, for example. And you just gave me a memory where you said there's people that think before they speak,
Yeah.
and there's people that speak before they think.
yeah.
And I can say genuinely, I used to speak before I think. So I used to run loose and let my mouth run loose, and sometimes I'll say something that's highly disrespectful. It's a thing that you cannot say at all, no matter if you're angry or not. You cannot say these things.
Yeah.
So at one point of my life, I realized that everyone around me, what I'm doing is I'm getting them upset with me. I'm making them angry because of my anger. And it upsets me. Just when you said, if you don't feel sad for oneself when you're angry, then madness lives within.
Yeah.
I felt upset for myself that no matter what friend I'm next to, at the end of the day, I realized I just made this guy angry at me for no reason. For what?
Yeah.
Because I'm angry. And one way that I realized that anger is a very big issue, especially in Islam and when you want to better yourself, is Iblis, is Shaytan. That Iblis, before he became the devil and became the Shaytan and the guy that misguides humankind, he used to be in Jannah, he used to be in God's paradise, living amongst all the other angels, and he was the one jinn that was allowed in God's paradise. And a story that I read a long time ago that I feel like changed my life and changed the course of my life is when I read that Iblis, for one of his prayers, one of his salahs, he lasted, that prayer lasted for 6,000 years. And it was a 2 rak'ah salah. So in my head, I'm thinking, rah. So he's praying Fajr, basically.
Yeah.
Imagine our Fajr prayers. My Fajr prayers sometimes can be 30 seconds if I want it to be. And sometimes can be 2 minutes. And sometimes, if I'm proper spiritual, can be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Iblis, this guy lasted his salah for 6,000 years. That's a big statement. That's a big thing for the angel on your right to put down. But when he was put in front of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to prostrate to Adam, Iblis had that one moment where ego entered his heart and said, Iblis, you're made out of fire. You've been praying for how many years? Praising your Lord for how many years? This man just got created. He literally just got created out of mud. You're created out of fire, out of smoke, and you're gonna prostrate to him. That's ego. Because ego got planted in his heart, anger then overtook. What was his angry point? That, Ya Allah, I'm a man that prayed for you, praised you. For how many years you're gonna make me prostrate to this thing made out of mud, out of dirt? Because of ego and because of anger, he was then taken out of God's paradise, and his course of his life changed from a jinn that was in God's paradise to now the devil, a person that's promised that on the day of judgment, he will be in Jahannam for the rest of history, for the rest of time, burning and being punished for that one thing. So if we want to talk about a sin, anger and ego were the first sins to happen. Yeah. It wasn't Adam and Eve for what they did. No, it was anger and ego. So when I saw that point, that anger and ego is what made Iblis get out of Jannah, I'm thinking now, anger and ego might be the reason why I won't even enter Jannah. So it's a very big thing to understand what anger and ego is. Is anger and ego just something small that you can fix over time? No. Because if you don't take control of your anger and don't take control of your ego, it can change a man like Imam Ali from killing a person for the sake of Allah to changing him into just a cold killer. That he killed a man because he spat in his face. Imam Ali says, I took a breath, I stepped away because I did not want to kill him for the sake of Ali.
Yeah, his own ego.
So he could have changed his title from killing someone for the sake of Allah to killing someone for the sake of his ego and his anger. It changes someone. Yeah. And if we're talking about Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and we're just entering the holy nights of Muharram, Imam Hussain alayhi salam saw the ego and anger that Yazid had. That Imam Hussein's forefathers, his great-grandfathers, his great-uncles killed the family of Yazid in battle. That ego and anger that was instilled in Yazid turned him into the man that we remember today. That he right now is getting punished for killing the best people of his time. For what? Because of anger and ego. But then, a nice point that I can raise as well is that there's good ego. That Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, a man like me can never submit to a man like you.
Yes.
That's good ego.
Yes.
And good ego can be very, very easy to obtain as soon as you get rid of the bad ego.
Yeah.
The bad ego works from the moment you're born until the moment you're taken out of earth. That when you enter your classroom and you look around, do you feel like you're better than everyone? Your shoulders raised, you got a good posture, walking, don't care about what anyone's saying. That's ego. And because of that ego, if that one person makes a joke that he should have not made in the first place, then anger is made. And then madness is starting to live within you.
Yeah.
Your life changes. Your life does change.
On this point of Shaytan, Iblis, I was listening to a lecture by Sayyid Mehdi Madarisi. He mentioned a really interesting point. He said that specific sin is the root, obviously, of all evil. Like Imam Sadiq says, and like you said, is the first sin, Yasser. But it's interesting because in hindsight, and if you examine it from an external perspective, that analogical argument Shaytan uses, I am this and Adam is this, I'm better than him, for example. That in itself is a logical argument. It makes sense.
Yeah.
You can say I'm made of a superior material.
Yeah.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes Iblis for his ego and his disobedience.
Yeah.
And when we look in the Holy Quran, when Allah tells him that when Allah tells the malaika, he says, I don't know the Arabic word, but the word he uses is a commanding word to fall down in prostration.
Yeah.
Allah is giving a militant order that this is the instruction I give you, and disobedience to me in this is eternal damnation.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, it's interesting. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, when Abu Hanifa used to come to him and he used to propose his theories, he would use qiyas. Qiyas is something that Ahlul Sunnah use and we reject because it's analogical. The use of analogies in the school of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim Islam is forbidden. We don't use it because we have the Ahlul Bayt alayhim Islam. We have thousands of hadith which we can refer to and look back to. And the qiyas for that reason is the same argument. You could say the same reasoning that Shaytan used. Well, if I'm this and he is this, then I must be better. Therefore, I'm willing to disobey my Lord based on my own reasoning. That itself is forbidden in Islam, and that comes back to ego. I am holier than thou, like we talked about in religious trauma. I'm better than this person, therefore I have a right over this person. That's delusional. Yani it's self-aggrandizement. You think of yourself greater than someone else, and then obviously there are repercussions.
You know, I think it's easy just to talk about anger, ego, and everything. But I think, and I think I want to take this from you.
Yeah.
Is what are like real life examples of what ego is? Because a lot of people don't know what ego is.
Yeah.
And you gave a very beautiful example between Shaytan and how he reacted to ego. But living in this world, let's say someone's, I don't know, 14, 15, someone's 18, 19, maybe someone's married, maybe someone's got kids.
Yeah.
Like what triggers someone to, have ego?
It's a lot of things. If you want to talk about teenagers, ego for teenagers is the dumbest thing I've seen in my life.
Me against the world.
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing I've seen in my life because I was one of them. It's very stupid what they do.
Yeah,
it's that they see themselves as it's a total. Basically, they surround themselves with lies. That I'm Yasser, I got bread in my pocket, I got money in my pocket. I got, for example, stuff like I got the girls on my phone. I got the mandem, I got the friends that I need. That's it. No one can compare to me. And ego from them stems in a lot of different ways. It's, for example, it's when a teacher gives them an instruction. I didn't like a teacher telling me what to do at all. Like when I tell you, I don't like them talking to me in a way where it's an instruction, I don't like it at all. So I used to tell teachers, are you my mum? Are you my dad? Or, why are you telling me what to do? Or for example, one way ego would hurt me a lot is when a teacher would shout at me. And if any of my teachers are watching this, I'm very sorry for how I used to react. But if they used to shout at me because let's say I'm disrupting the class, I'm disturbing everyone. When they used to shout at me...
Let's say or you were. Big difference.
When they were shouting at me because I was disturbing the class, I would straight away lash out on them and I would shout back.
But Yasser, that's a big issue with that generation.
Very
Honestly,
big issue.
There's a lot of sass. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of attitude, really bad attitude, which comes from teenagers.
Back
chat and just disrespect. You know this guy, Mizzy. Is it Mizzy?
I've heard of Mizzy.
No, was it the guy who walked into the houses? Isn't it Mizzy,
yeah, that guy.
The prankster.
The prankster. That guy is, unfortunately, an example of the worst that you see with teenagers, but there's thousands of these guys.
Yeah.
Because there's that, are you my mum? Are you my dad? That kind of talk back to teachers. It's like you don't understand the respect or the status that an elder has, let alone elders, for example, could be your parents, bruv. It could be your teachers. It could be anything.
But I'll tell you something. if we're on this topic of teachers and stuff, because that's a very big egotistical thing for youngers, is that I would just so I can link myself to them, is that sometimes a teacher might do something that's actually not right.
Yeah. Genuinely wrong.
Genuinely wrong. I'll give you an example. One time in my science class, I've built a lot of hate towards this teacher, and he probably hates me.
What's his name?
Mr. Sayed. He was my science teacher. He used to upset me, and I used to upset him. He shouts at me, I would shout at him. One day, we're doing the register, and he's like, "Oh, Yasser, the word," and he used the word that I can't repeat right now.
Okay,
that's how bad it was. I can't repeat it. But when he called me that word, I was baffled. My brain,
must have been furious.
I was like, "What? What did he just call me?" He's like, "Yasser, the," and he said the word. So I lashed out, and I used every word in the book against him. Now, do I regret what I did? Yes. But does that mean that ego and anger what I did is not justified? No. It can be justified in a way that he upset me. But the way I reacted is because of anger.
Right.
He hurt my ego.
So you're saying you shouldn't have reacted like that?
You shouldn't react like that, yeah. So if we're talking, so just to finish teenagers as a whole, is that for teenagers it's hard because they're in their own world. They think they're indestructible. They think everything 100%. They do. And imagine, I'm talking like this, but I'm a teenager. Yeah?
When I was a teenager, I should think I was like, I'm so old, I'm a man, I have my own opinions, everything. But when you grow up, you actually think, well, this guy was like I don't want to use it. That's our thoughts,
Ego for teenagers is what you wear, how many followers you have, how rebellious you can be. Do you know what I mean? How hard you are. Do you get me? And we were all like that. Honestly, I used to teach teenagers, and some of them were like that. And as a teacher, I found it very difficult.
Yeah.
But there's in Surah Al-Fusilat, there's a verse in the Holy Quran. Allah says, Surah 41, verse 34 to 35. Allah says, if you replace evil habits by virtuous ones, you replace your evil habits with virtuous ones, you'll certainly find that your enemies will become your intimate friends. Only those who exercise patience and those who have been granted a great share of Allah's favor can find such an opportunity. Allah is basically telling us, when you're angry and you've basically, you've got the opportunity to be angry, you've got an evil habit, and you replace it with patience.
Something good, yeah.
Allah will give you not only a good friend, but you'll get a great share of Allah's favor. There's opportunities there. Teenagers is massive, and obviously we've got so many of our viewers. We talked a couple of weeks ago. Probably 30-40% of our audience falls within that category.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of examples.
There's a lot, and I'm just talking about school, but it can even go on to, for example, outside of school. That sometimes teenagers like to banter a lot. I like to banter a lot. Banter, because of the banter you're having, a guy thinks in his head, let's say I just met Sayed Ali. Yeah. And me and Ahmed are brethren. We're friends. Ahmed calls me something. He's like, yeah, sir, you're this. And I'm like, Ahmed, you're this. And then Sayed Ali joins.
He thinks it's calm.
And he calls me something. That hurts my ego straight away. Yeah. I just met you. Relax. Relax. I don't know you. You don't know me. Why are you calling me that?
Yeah, it's true.
Do you get it?
It's true.
So that happens with teenagers a lot. Because when they're trying to make friends, banter, it happens. So if I'm talking to a teenager, a guy that's 18 younger, 19 younger, I'll tell you something. If you're genuinely thinking about how you can reduce ego and reduce anger, you need to see within yourself that, for example, you're not better than this guy that might be upsetting you. What you do need to do is set some communication. One thing that I work on a lot is that I don't hide what is in my heart. So if I have a problem with Sayed Ali, or if I have a problem with Ahmed, I'll tell you, you man need to stop this because it's upsetting me and I'm getting quite angry. So it's good that you communicate, because once you communicate, it sets that line, boundary. If he then does exceed that boundary, exceed that red line, then you know how to handle it. It doesn't have to be with you punching him up, you getting angry, but you staying calm actually shows that you're the bigger man.
It's maturity.
It's something about maturity.
Yeah. It is. It's all about maturity.
But if we want to move on to outside of teenagers, with work, I see a lot with work that I might be a lower position than Sayyid Mujtaba. Sayyid Mujtaba is editor, I'm cameraman. Right. If I go to Sayyid Mujtaba and I'm trying to give him a tip on how to edit, and this is something happened before, by the way. Mujtaba's editing, and all I said was, why are you doing that? That's what I said. Why are you doing that? He cracked. It's like, bro, I've been editing for 15 years.
I think we need to make an intervention. I've been editing before there's a fight on this podcast.
I've been editing for 15 years. You're trying to teach me. That's ego. Now, I'm not telling you that he has ego. I'm just saying.
Mashallah is one of the most humble guys.
Yeah.
Today he doesn't have a microphone to back.
Yeah, but that's not. I'm not saying that he's egotistical. I'm just saying that's a bit of ego.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So if I was egotistical and angry, the way he spoke to me, and he was like, "What are you trying to teach me? I've been editing. Who are you?" I could have lashed out, and I could have gone very angry at him and done a mad thing. For what? Because he shouted at me and he said a couple words that I didn't like. But because I reduce the ego and anger, then it helps. But it can work both ways. If Sayed Mujtaba, answered in a better way, they dropped his ego, he said, "You know what, Yasser? I appreciate it, but I know what I'm doing." Just that line. I appreciate what you're telling me, but I know what I'm doing. Boom.
Everything comes back.
Everything's squashed. So communication is a very big thing. And communication goes back to what Ahmed said. Think before you speak. It's a thing that I struggle with till today. Thinking before I speak.
We talk about Behlul and the way that society saw him and the way that the Imam saw him. People would ask him, "Why are you engaging with such a man?" But he understood that the guys, for example, obviously we know Behlul had his own method and strategy, but it's interesting because the A'immah would reduce themselves to be on par with the people's level. They would never look down on someone. Ego is a big part of his looking down on someone. You might meet someone for the first time, think, what's this guy wearing? Or like you might judge them so fast. There's so many people I can imagine and remember that I've judged too quickly. I can think of dozens of people. I've judged them too fast. My first impression of them was bad. I looked down on them, got to know them, and I felt like an idiot. Like, these guys are beautiful humans. And it's me who's the one who has the disease in my heart of anger and ego. It all comes back to that, to be honest. You have to be real and know who you are and your worth.
That's true. That's right. And we have to be real. And Yasser, you gave that example of, for example, the teachers, how we teenagers think we're better than teachers. And I think something that affects the Muslim community a lot. For example, sometimes we think we're better than scholars. We may think we're experts in a certain subject, a certain matter, and we can hear something off the pulpit or hear something from a scholar who spent his whole life dedicated, to understanding the ahkam and the history and everything about Islam, and then we come and say, no, he said this is wrong. Yeah. We never give benefit of doubt or anything. And I think that's something we can all work on.
100%.
I think myself, sometimes I hear things and I'm like, why is he saying this?
There's got to be respect.
But there's a difference. I'm not going to come and say, why are you saying this is wrong? And sometimes I've gone back, done the research, and it's actually right. I was wrong. Yeah. For example, in my understanding of certain aspects in faith. But alhamdulillah, and I think something that we need to really focus on is, you mentioned it very early on, is our tongues. Yeah. Because sometimes, we can really lose patience when it comes to family members. Yeah. Because, sometimes you may have a son, and he's very disrespectful with his father. Yeah. Or sometimes you may have a husband who's very disrespectful with his spouse. Or sometimes you may have the other way around. The parent's so disrespectful to his son. And then what happens? This guy thinks, I'm the dad, I'm better than you, so this is how I'm going to speak with you. Or the son thinks, I'm a teenager, I know better than you, so my ego is going to overtake me, then I'm going to disrespect you. What's going to happen on the other side? Anger. Yeah, you gave that example of your teacher, and I was just thinking, it relates in our day-to-day life.
I can even say something to add on, Sayed, is that if I want to make this podcast helpful to the viewer and to the listener, I'll add a line, all right? Which is, this comes from personal experience. Okay. That, alhamdulillah, throughout my years, I've met a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. And I talk to Sayed Mujtaba about this a lot. That there's lecturers out there or there's speakers out there that might go up and let's say they're talking about anger. All they'll do is say why anger's wrong and why you should stop it. And then they'll say some mad ways of stopping it. You need to read Ziyat Ashura every day, or you need to read this book and this book. But sometimes it has to go deeper. You have to put your head with some of these people. And I talk from life experiences. That there are some people out there that are not angry because of what someone said, but they're angry of something that happened in the past. Yeah. That, for example, their father might have left them. And when their father left them, their mum became a single mother. I had a friend, a very close brother of mine, that his father left him when he was 6 years old. Sorry. His father left him when he was 12. His younger brother was 6. Now, when he was 12, some people, they develop a bit early, mature a bit early. You're a 12-year-old and you just saw your dad leave. He's not coming back. And you're looking at your mum, she's crying day and night. She's a single mother. Imagine an Arab mother migrated from Iraq, doesn't know an ounce of English. How is she now gonna provide for her 3 children? A 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, her daughter that was 2 years old. Now, I'm not gonna mention names, and hopefully he's not upset with me saying this, but if a man goes through this from 12 years old, then he's angry. Yeah. He's angry about his father's absence. That because his father left, his whole life had to change. That he can't have that childhood where he can leave and go to the park, play football, play basketball, go to school and live a normal life. No, he needs to think in the back of his head, am I gonna go home and see my mum cry again? Am I gonna have to hide it from my younger brother and my younger sister? Am I gonna have to do something to provide food? Yesterday, my mum didn't give me food. She didn't give me lunch money today. Or she gave me a banana for lunch. All these life experiences, what happens then doesn't plant ego, but plants anger that is very hard to get rid of. That your father's absence now angers you. That your life had to change for what? I was an innocent child that didn't deserve anything. Didn't deserve this that came to me. But because of my father's absence, my life changed.
I want to add something, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah. Bro, we have to cut people slack. Wallahi, we really have to cut people slack, because you don't know what's going on in people's lives. And what you said, Yasser, I know a few people with nearly an identical story to that. And you know, you meet someone for the first time, and superficially on the surface, they seem like a normal human.
Yeah.
The more you get to know them, the more deep you understand them, the more baggage you uncover.
Yeah.
And you think this person has lost a family member, he's had a traumatic experience, they went through something when they were young, or even when they were older, for example.
Yeah.
And those people are then put into their own life scenarios. So let's say, for example, they join a workplace and they're working with people day in, day out. Someone will say something to trigger someone.
Yeah.
You don't know. This guy's, be careful with your words, because you don't know how it affects them. Or for example, in marriage, right? You might end up marrying someone, or you might have, I don't know, your brother or your sister marries someone who's got a previous life experience, who comes from a traumatic family, traumatic background. I beg you, be aware of their circumstances and change how you behave yourself in response to it. Because there are people who don't process things psychologically the same way you do.
Yeah.
The society they grew up in is not the society you grew up in. So being angry at them is not a good thing. You might look down on them. You might feel angry to the way they process things.
Yeah.
They might get angry fast. That doesn't mean you respond or react. Honestly, I wish I could say this more, because I know a lot of people in a similar situation, and I've seen it. I've seen it a lot.
Oh, you know, sometimes this moment of rage, it can really, really change the course of your life.
100%.
And, you know, we've seen marriages break down, families break down, communities, you know, dismantle. And sometimes brothers, you look at them and you're like, these two are great brothers, or these two are great friends.
You don't.
What on earth happened? You know, what separated them? Ego and anger.
And even in marriage, how many times did you hear? Sorry, how many times did you hear in marriage that these two loved each other? What happened? Overnight, they stopped. They stopped loving each other. That doesn't happen. It's not meant to happen. Like I'm fed up of it, wallah, because I know so many stories of this.
It's a very big problem.
It's a big problem. Big problem.
I got something when I was very young that because of some life experiences and stuff, I became very attentive. So I picked up on a lot of things that some people might not pick up on stuff.
Yeah.
So which is why probably I'm in media, because in media you need to catch a lot of stuff that people won't catch. But I'll say something which is I realized, for example, this friend that lost his father. Let's say I just became friends with Sayed Ali, and Sayed Ali goes to this friend of mine, and out of nowhere we're having banter, and he disrespects or does like a slight comment about his dad.
Right.
Now this guy's lost his dad. His dad's left, but he's upset. He's angry of his absence. So when this guy cusses his dad or disrespects him, trigger. Now that trigger's there, is going to be the hardest thing on earth to calm him down. And I'll tell you now, it's going to be very hard. Because when we were in that situation, I wasn't upset, to be fair with you, because I realized, for example, why Sayed Ali said that. It's banter, we're young, high.
This is hypothetical.
It's all hypothetical. No, it happened in real life, but it wasn't Sayed Ali. It wasn't Sayed Ali. So straight away, this guy lashed out, became angry, and the long story short, he beat the hell out of this guy because of this one word he said, that he disrespected his father. So it's going to be very hard for you as a man that might not have ego and reduced his ego and anger to now know how to deal with people.
Yeah.
You need to watch your words. If you don't know someone, get to know.
Yeah.
Because once you get to know, you know how to deal with them.
You know, we avoid situations like this if we're patient and we're respectful. Yeah. And you don't know if you're going through something, you don't know if someone else is going through something. So you've got to be smart with how you speak to people. And to be honest, in the long run, it'll be better for you. Yeah. Because then you'll become habitual for you. It'll become your habits to be cautious about how you speak to people. And then you'll give people the benefit of the doubt. So I shouldn't say anything about this guy's dad. I don't know what his situation is. For example,
you never know.
Do you know what I'm saying? Let's move on. Because obviously we're getting on. I want to talk about Muharram. Okay. Yeah. Muharram is fast approaching. We've got a few days to go now. It's a time of year where we look to change. Okay. I have like 2 or 3 short things I want to say on it, and I'll pass over to you guys.
Please.
The first is our religion as Shias in the West is Islam by label, but Muharram and Ashura by culture when we take it the wrong way. Sometimes we end up worshipping Imam Hussain alayhi salam. I don't want to make that sound wrong, but we make it the time of the year which is the most important for us, and nothing else matters. What we want to change in Muharram is not just entering Karbala and entering Ashura and saying this is the final thing, 11th of Muharram, I'm done, I've done my duty, I've done my khidmah, I've served my food and I've hit my chest and that's it. No, we want to enter Muharram thinking, how can I improve my relationship with Allah and what habits can I make a change from? Last Muharram, we had this exact conversation about changing yourself in this coming month. There's incredible amounts, and this is why we wanted to talk about this today. Because if we can work on anger and ego, you'll see it taking part in the majalis day-to-day or at home. Your day-to-day life will change if the way you think about Muharram and the way you think about God is different. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that these nights are so powerful. So powerful. Your dua will be answered. You know, I remember, and I mentioned this before on the music podcast, when I was maybe 16, 17, I was the biggest addict to music. Like, I used to listen to everything. I used to probably spend about 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day listening to music. Imagine how many songs that is. That's probably like 100 songs a day. It's crazy. Eve of Ashura, I remember I went to a seminar and the sheikh mentioned, he goes, if you want to make a change, do it tonight. And I promise you that change will stay. And I went home, I deleted all the music off my phone. I made a pledge to him. I was like, I'm never going to listen to music again. For me, alhamdulillah, so far it's worked. What I'm trying to say is that don't underestimate, brothers and sisters, what benefit, what impact these nights can have. Because whatever you do now, whatever pledge and change you make now, you can keep it going. So don't underestimate yourself. You should value the willpower that Allah has given you. And you should make the most of it, because you're going to be entering an environment where there is no music, where you're probably not going to be running into girls like you usually are, and so on and so forth. So make a pledge to be better. And that's why I think this anger and ego topic is a really good place to start, because we've got now hopefully a foothold on an area in all of our lives we can improve on. But I just want to mention this because obviously now we're reaching the end of the conversation. Obviously we're approaching Muharram, but I think this is like a golden opportunity for all of us. And I don't want it to be a wasted month. Wallah, I really don't want it. I want anyone who's listening, anyone who's part of our digital community to like work with us, journey with us, to become better people.
Inshallah, no, you're right. You know, Muharram is a month, inshallah, that's life-changing for all of us. Myself, Yasser, Sayyid Mushtaba, yourself, Ahmed, and everyone listening and watching. And in fact, not just us, the entire Muslim world. You know, as Muslims, we normally look at Ramadan and we say, you know what, this month we're going to be better. You know, and, you know, we want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, you know, being Shia and, you know, being Muharram coming around the corner now, it is the best opportunity for all of us to say, you know what, similar to your pledge, you know, let's make like a pledge with Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam. You know, let's, while you were talking, you know, I was thinking of Salah. You know, one thing that I've like become better at is Salah this Ramadan, the obligatory prayers. You know, the way we, you know, focus on them and everything. But I was remembering right now, as you were saying your point, Imam Hussain on the day of Ashura still went to pray. You know, he still, you know, he established Salah in the middle of battle. Yeah. And while he was praying, there were still arrows being fired, but that didn't stop him, you know, being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he knows the ultimate goal It's pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that's something I can work on myself. You know, if we're speaking about our personal, you know, things that we want to improve on, I think this is one thing that we can continue on throughout. That's what I think is beautiful for me personally in Muharram, is that Muharram is the month that humbles me. Muharram is the month that calms me down. Muharram is the month that, you know, I can be patient about everything, because when we get impatient, we can remember, you know, the patience of Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha.
What I want to ask you, sorry, on this point, is that when you look at Muharram and you look at Abu Abdullah, you look at Imam Hussain al-Islam, do you like consciously recognize, I know you do, but I'm asking for the sake of the,
hope I do.
The viewers, do you consciously recognize that Karbala was not Karbala for the sake of what happened back then and it's just a tragedy we mourn, but rather Karbala is a tragedy we mourn, but also Imam Hussain al-Islam did it for a reason, and that is to push people towards God.
Of course.
Do you get me? That Karbala was the beginning, it's not the end of the story. Like, we don't stop with Karbala.
Let's look at many millions of Muslims who are Muslim today, or call themselves Muslim, or label themselves as lovers of the Ahl al-Bayt. Bro, honestly, Yasser, Ahmed, it's because of Karbala. What is that magnet that drives us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is that magnet that makes us, you know, want to rethink and look back and try and improve ourselves as Muslims? Is Karbala. Ultimately, Muharram is a place where we can go 10 nights and learn life lessons, learn, you know, how to improve ourselves as a Muslim, learn new knowledge, learn, you know, seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the lectures, all the sermons, all the, you know, eulogies that sometimes we hear, these are things that makes us connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's me on a personal level. And inshallah, it's, you know, people have other ways of connecting with Allah during this month. But what about you, Yasser?
I remember 2 years ago, I started a lecture once on the 10th night of Muharram. And I started it with, of course,
so this is night 9, day 9.
Day 9.
Muharram.
Yeah, night of the 10th. And when I finished the Arabic start of my lecture, I said, as the 10th night approaches us, we remember everything we've done. So I started talking about from a servant point of view, that there are people that hoovered the carpets for the past 9 days. There are people that served chai, cooked food, cleaned the majlis, gave bags for shoes, picked up shoes. There's so much. There's so much that you did in those 10 nights. But I realized that as soon as you finish with the maqtal, and the maqtal's done, and you move over to, let's say, day 15 of Muharram, you're back to your old self.
Yeah.
So it's like, as soon as you hit Muharram, you changed. You're this guy, everyone's seeing you in the dishdasha, you're not listening to music, you're not swearing, you're proper in your zone. All you care about is Imam Hussain and Allah. But as soon as the 10 nights finish, it's like all of that went to waste. And you've gone back to your normal self. I realized something in Muharram is that, especially in majalis where you serve, you can always see, I'm bringing it back to ego, by the way, ego and anger, is that you can always see ego and anger in people. That if you tell someone, Sayed Ali, you just tidy up the shoes, you know, put them with pairs, put them in lines. Sayed Ali, for example, in his heart, be like, Sayed Ali, yeah? I'm Sayed Ali Radhawi. Why am I going to touch people's shoes? It's an example. It's an example. I don't know why I keep using it. I'm sorry.
Yasser, I'll kiss your shoes.
I'm sorry. Astaghfirullah. But then, someone can also come to me, and it's happened before, and they'll be like, Yasser, can you go clean the toilets? Now, cleaning a toilet after 2,000 people just went to it, it's a very, very hard task to tell someone. So if my ego was high, and I would say,
you feel it's degrading.
Why are you asking me to clean the toilets?
Yeah.
Don't tell me to do something better. So because in Muharram I see a lot of people drop their ego, like whatever you want me to do. It's all for Abu Abdullah. You want me to clean the toilets? Yallah, where's the mop?
Yeah.
I'll go clean it straight away.
Yeah.
But after those 10 nights, when someone drops a comment, or when their mum, for example, doesn't make them the food they like, straight away they're angry. Or their teacher drops a comment, why are you late to school? You didn't do your homework. That ego is getting built back up. Because now they're thinking, okay, I'm outside of Muharram. It's not for Imam Hussain anymore. Let me lash out.
Yeah, we're doing it for the sake of, sorry bro.
Yeah.
We're doing it because you know that's expected of you in that environment.
Yeah.
So you know, if I don't help people pass out food, or if I don't say, Ani Khadim Imam Hussain, if I don't put on the act, then I'm excluded. Do you get me? Like, people will do things because it's socially what's expected of them. Yeah. Like, for you guys especially, I don't mean to be like forward, but for the Iraqi youth in London, for you guys, there's a culture which is visible when it comes to Muharram. So you guys dress the same, you have the same terminology, you'll do the same khidmah and that kind of stuff. Compared to obviously my community is a bit different, right? In the way we put ourselves forward. But for you guys, it's like, if you want to be part of this youth group, or if you want to be part of this social group, then you've got to be like us. And that in that environment of majalis, you will dress that way, you will perform the same khidmah, you hand out the water bottles and pick up the shoes and whatnot. But outside of the majalis, you're not doing it. So even if you're doing it and you agree to mop the floors and the toilets, for example, don't do it because you're doing it because it's expected of you in that circle, but outside of that, you wouldn't do it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if in the first night of Muharram, you're doing khidmah at night, but in the daytime when you're at school or at work,
you're doing the opposite.
You're yourself, but then you go to majalis and all your boys are there and the sheikh's watching you, and then
you're on a matting.
Yeah,
it's
literally.
Like, it's if I want to talk about the youngers like me, in Muharram it's a whole different thing. And I still remember when I was in high school. During school, I'm still chatting to my brethren. I'm still chatting, cracking jokes, speaking to the girls, shouting at my teacher. 3 hours later,
you're in majlis.
I don't even raise my voice. You can't even hear my voice. I'm quiet. I'm cleaning the carpet. I'm giving out food. So it's a whole different person.
It's true.
But why does that only have to be in Muharram? Or why does it only start when you enter the majlis? Something that I done that really changed my life is that I had to become very conscious of myself. That for a minute of the day, instead of thinking about what people think of me, what do I think of myself? What do I see when I look in the mirror? Do I see a youth that when I'm in school, I'm chatting this way, but when I go to the majlis, I'm chatting this way? There are people that I used to chill with. I used to be their friends, where wallah al-azim, before the majlis, they might be on the phone talking to their girlfriend, saying, yeah, I'm just going to the mosque. You can't call me. When I finish, I'll call you. And it's a haram relationship. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And then in the majlis, I'll see him cleaning the carpets. Now he starts, he's crying the loudest.
Off, all of that.
He's crying. Latom starts, shirts off. He's doing Latom. He's in the middle. Like, what are you doing? What's happening?
Yeah.
So if we want to talk about how someone can step out of that.
Thank you for not using Sayed Ali.
Yeah, that one I kept it, no names. So I realized that one thing, if you want to control your ego, or if you want to become a man that surrounds yourself with khidmah, is that you need to surround yourself with good friends. I used to be with people that all they cared about in life, wallah al-azim, Allah shahid, all they cared about in life was money, whether it was halal or haram, and the other thing that they cared about was girls. That's it. They didn't care if their mum was alright, if their friends are okay, if their homework is done, what's going to happen in the future, the wife, children, university, they didn't care. So if you want to better yourself in Muharram and then outside of Muharram and get rid of ego, get rid of anger, you need to get better friends.
Yeah.
For a year of my life, or nearly 2 years, I had no friends. I had to get rid of my whole circle. My whole circle that, as I said, cared about money and girls. Now imagine me. I'm still a young G. I'm 16. Why am I alone? I'm going to school. I don't speak to anyone. They're like, why don't you speak to us? I'm like, bro, I'm not about that life. Leave me alone. I'm going home. My mum's like, it's 4 p.m. Used to come home at 8, 10. What are you doing? There's no one to do anything with. They're on a different wavelength to me. So if you wanna make a change, one genuine advice I'll give you, from a personal perspective, is that you need to change your circle. Because once you change your circle, you're now changing how your brain thinks. You're changing your brain from thinking, okay, let's make money, haram or halal, doesn't matter. Let me chat to this girl, let me chat to this thing. No. Now you're changing it to, bro, have you heard that banging latmiya that got out yesterday?
Yeah.
Or, yo, the majlis starts at 7. Yalla, let's leave.
Yeah.
Do you get it? Or we'll share lectures between each other. Or even we'll talk about lecturers. Bro, did you hear what that guy said? So when I changed my circle, everything else changed. I now don't need to talk about how much money I made yesterday and how I did it. Or look at Snapchat, I'm chatting to this girl. No, I've changed it to, bro, there's a banging latmi to listen to. Basim Karbala, dropped a banger.
Sayed Ali Radhawi.
Sayed Ali Radhawi dropped a banger. Him and Rashid Haidar, it was a banger. or guys, Haraka, Al-Akbar, Shabab Saptain, they're starting in 30 minutes, let's go. Let's make the majlis. Rasul A'zam, it's Friday, let's go. So because of that, your anger and ego can change.
That's true.
Stanmore in Ramadan is a go-to place. Now, I'll be honest with you. Kukupaka, shout out to the mandem. One more thing I'll say before I finish off, I know I've been waffling a lot, is that one more thing that you can do to stop anger and ego, I would say, is is after you've set this goal that I said that you want to be a servant of Imam Hussain, is first of all, surround yourself with some religious aspects that might help you. I once read the Quranic ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the best of people, the most honorable of people are the ones that have taqwa.
Taqwa, yes.
Now, I thought of it in a way different way that a lot of people think of it. I saw it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said people. When he said people, that means that you don't have to be an imam to have taqwa. You don't have to be a rasul, a nabi to have taqwa. But you can be a normal person and you can attain taqwa. So then I researched what taqwa is. Taqwa comes from the word waqaya, which means that you have to avoid sinning. I always thought of taqwa as you have to fear God and be scared of your actions. But once I saw in the other scope of avoiding sinning, I was like, okay, you need to avoid sinning. How do you avoid sinning? If you get rid of your anger and ego, it becomes a very simple task. Yeah. Because now you're not thinking, bro, I'm Yasser Al-Hilfi. Don't chat to me this way. That's a sin. Even you thinking you're better than someone, that's a sin. There's only one person that's the best, and that's Allah. And that's what we say how many times a day, Allahu Akbar. So once you surround yourself with these religious aspects and think about it a bit more and actually surround yourself with people that also give you these religious aspects, you can get rid of anger and ego in a very simple way. Very simple way.
I'm happy to surround myself with you.
Habibi Sayyid, and likewise.
And I'm always learning from this guy. Gem.
Inspires us. Obviously, you're part of the family as well, man. We're very lucky to have you as a guest and also outside of it as part of the team. You know, we love you to bits.
Honestly, I love you too, Habibi.
You remember that podcast? That I love you, Yasser. What was that? Like 2 weeks ago. Friendship one.
I think we're talking about toxic friends.
Toxic friends, something like that. Yeah.
I remember that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, and inshallah, these coming days will be beneficial for us as we prepare for the holy month. And inshallah, we can go on this journey together. We can learn from each other. We want to learn from you. We want to hear from you. We are, as we always just say, we're just trying to grow, learn, and serve. So in order to do that, we need to hear more from you. So alhamdulillah, we've been getting some really, really nice comments on YouTube, on Instagram, a lot of DMs as well. But keep it coming. Keep it coming. We are trying our absolute best to grow and to take on your suggestions and feedback. So we need to hear more from you. So yeah, if you haven't hit the subscribe button or the notification bell, make sure you do. We have so much content coming out, inshallah, in the coming month. So stay tuned. Said, anything to add?
I will just say, the month of Muharram now, technically here, just a few days from it, is that, let's remember Imam Hussain for a moment, and we spoke about anger and ego. If we are angry people, Imam Hussain was a soft-hearted individual. He was like one of the most sweetest, kindest, noblest, holiest Imam anyone can relate to. And inshallah, we can take him as an example and implement, some of his good characteristics into our lives. Inshallah.
Thank you for tuning in, guys. Yasser, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.